other people. And I do use them these days. I use a combination of all sorts of things. But we've got a mud brick place and it's not rendered. And so if we get a sprinkler like that on there, that'll do some serious damage. So I ended up going for these little micro sprinklers, they're called. And you can get to various types, but I've sort of gone with these little yellow and black ones, which I'll demonstrate in the middle in a minute. And they don't use much water, but they do like a bit of pressure. They work much better with pressure, because then it causes a mist, and this fine mist, it wafts around. And today it's not very, there's no wind at all, so we're not going to get the greatest demonstration. But when it's not windy, you're not going to have an issue with fire. If it's not windy, it's just going to be creeping along. You can put it out if you're not there, if you're there. If you're not there, the misters are going to work okay, but what they do normally is it's windy. Whichever, say the wind's coming from the west, which is probably the most likely scenario for Kim, then these misters are going to be spraying down. I'll show you in a minute. And wherever the wind blows and those embers are blowing, even if it's right up into here, which in this situation is not a problem anyway, because it's a very well built, fireproof house, fire resistant at least. That's where the mist will go as well. So these sprinklers or misters, they say micro sprinkler they call them. They reckon they use about 0.2 of a litre per minute, which is a little bit more than a cup of water. And when I got this system going, we only did it last week, but when we tested, I've got a flow meter to see how much water we were using, so that you can calculate, so there's no guessing how long you can run it for, and just check out what size tank you got and work things out. It was 30 litres a minute. That was under pressure from not the grid, but yeah, the town supply.
Yep.
With electricity. Oh well, you don't need electricity, do you, when you're on town supply?
No.
Anyway, each system is going to be different. You're going to be on, you might have gravity feed, you might have a dam, you might have a pump, electric, battery. There's so many variables, and when I design systems, we take all that into consideration, as well as whether you're going to stay, whether you're going to leave, whether you're in two minds about it. Every single possibility is planned for. We try that anyway, we aim for that. So this system, I don't know if anyone noticed that Kim's got a system. Did anyone notice it? So I'm like Greg, I like to do it neat. The roughest one I've ever done is probably at my place. That was early on, I've done quite a few since then. But you can do them in nice straight lines, nice and neatly. I use a single-sided saddle. It's a electrical conduit saddle, and I paint them black beforehand. And so it's very quick. And then I was using Phillips head screwdrivers, and they're a real pain. These ones are just like a roofing screw, so it's magnetic, doink, in it goes. You can flap it around, zoom. So if you're doing your own, those little tweaks make a big difference. Even the size of the screw. A roof screw is too big for these saddles, so it'll grip it. And if your hand's anywhere near, it'll take a big chunk out of your skin. I know that for a fact. So little things like that can save a lot of time, energy, and pain. So I was saying I usually use just the mister, but I also use micro sprinklers, wobble tees. It depends on each situation. But in this case, all we've done is circumnavigated the deck, so that there's going to be mist everywhere. No matter which way the wind comes from, the whole place is going to be soaked where it needs it. And Kim mentioned that there's a lot of fuel and building materials and all that stacked up underneath, and that's just because it's a work in progress.
It is, yep.
But even with these misters, there's going to be a lot of dripping and moisture going underneath. But if this was going to stay open, and it had building materials on it, if it's open and clean, probably wouldn't matter. There's not a lot of, there's pretty much nothing that can catch fire under there, if that was the case. But if this was going to stay open like this, then I'd circumnavigate this also with misters, probably use the same 360-degree ones and point straight out, so that you're wetting and cooling the area all the way around, and when the wind's blowing, it'll just blow it back in and wet the underneath as well. So that's what I would do in that situation. The other thing I'll probably mention while I think about it is we didn't get burnt, our property didn't get burnt. It was 500 metres away after months of waiting. But we had it, the one reason we never left was because we had an underground fire shelter. And, you know, they can be a death trap if you if you don't know what you're doing, I guess, and it could have been a death trap for us as well, but I don't think so. Had a concrete slab, rectangular concrete slab, under a rammed earth rectangular hole with a stairway leading down to an airtight door, and I had 3 car tyres, Hilux tyres, pumped up to overpressure, just in case we lost air down there, and then you could just press it with a matchstick and suck some air, and it tasted pretty horrible. I tried it, but when I showed my daughter that, she said, "I'm not going to suck on that." And I said to her, "You're picking your boyfriend out of the way to get to that if you're running." But anyway, we didn't need it. But you know, if you've got that, you know, if you're in a serious bushfire situation, a bush setting, and you know, you're planning on staying, then being underground is going to be guaranteed of not getting the radiation or the ember attack, and the main thing after that is air. You know, it can suck air out if it's not 100%. So that's another thing to think about. Most people won't. The other thing I'll quickly mention too is I'm working on a remote system, and I had a friend, "Oh yeah, we'll do Wi-Fi and we'll do this," and it was all too techo for me. I'm a Sparky by trade, but that sort of thing, it just doesn't interest me anymore. So what I come up with is a 12 volt deep cycle battery, any sort of charging system, like on this one I'm going to do in Verona. It's just one of those little battery maintainers, you know, plugged into a power point. So if she loses power, that battery is charged, and that'll be good. And all that battery's doing is operating a solenoid, and that solenoid is controlled by these little hardwired thermostats. They're about the size of a 5-cent piece, strategically wired around your house, probably 4 corners. And when that hits a certain temperature, and the ones I bought are 50 degrees, if it gets to 50 degrees, it closes a switch, it opens a solenoid, and the misters come on. So you could be anywhere in the world, the bushfire hits, and if it gets 50 degrees, it's going to come on. And I haven't run it yet, so I haven't trialled it. But what I was going to do is I was going to get that thermostat to trigger a timer to run it for 10 minutes. But it's very complex, so I'm actually going to wire this one up without a timer, so it's just going to go come on. That thermostat will be protected by a mister. It might turn it off quite quickly, but it's only going to come on and off if it gets 50 degrees. So I'm going to test that, because I'm a believer in, you know, keep it simple. And if you don't need a little digital timer, which may be, it's just another thing that can go wrong. So, and one of the points Graham made, he said, "I'm not very tidy, and there was plants all around my house and everything, and you should tidy up."
Don't rub it in.
Well, my place is the same actually, and there's a bit of stuff lying around, even couches and stuff, you know. But if you've got Greg was the same, he had all sorts of stuff. He didn't clean up his verandas. He just put the misters on, and wet stuff, as Greg said, doesn't burn. And so even if you're a little bit untidy and you've got a bit of stuff laying around, if you've got a pile of newspapers there, they're going to be soaking wet. You know? Same as the leaves in your gutter. If they're soaking wet, they act as a blanket. And a couple of times when the fires were on, I thought it was going to be on at our place. We had misters going, and under the deck, which had bigger gaps than this, there was about that much, you know, 6 inches to a foot of leaf litter under a deck that was 4 foot off the ground. And I went under there afterwards, after running those misters for half an hour or so, and the whole lot was soaked, like a great big wet blanket, you know. So when you got water and you know, and yeah, if you've got water and things are wet, it's just a big bonus. It doesn't burn, you know. And as Greg said, he had a few structures and that weren't wet, they burned, you know. So yeah, if you can plan it that everything's wet when the fire's on, then there's a good chance when you come back, if you leave, the place will still be there. And yeah, one other quick thing, I had some friends and they were going to insure their property, and it was $17,000, you know, to insure property. I don't know how. I don't have insurance, but yeah, so a lot of people can't afford that. This is cheap insurance, and it's taking matters into your own hand and sort of you know, becoming the master of your own destiny and not a victim of the way society is, or the way it's heading, the way it is pretty much. So yeah, it feels empowering to do something like this and go, wow, the whole place is wet. If a bushfire comes, you know, put the mister on. Maybe you're going to run out, your tank's going to run out. Maybe your electric pump's going to burn out. Whatever, these little things that you might have to sacrifice by the job not being 100% perfect. But come back and you've still got a house, and even if it is insured, imagine, you know, all those memories caught up in it, and all the you know, people have been through this, you know, rebuilding and how long it takes, and when an area is hit, all the builders are, you know, they're busy, they're flat out, and they're charging a fortune because they can. So yeah, this is why this workshop's so valuable, you know, to let people empower themselves, and it's not rocket science. And before we do a little, maybe we'll do a demonstration and then some questions. Okay. Yeah, you can have less sprinklers. And this is too, if you like. So the other thing that
This is good in a heat wave too.
The other thing it does, the other day I put a little system around my house, not for fire but for cooling, and it dropped the temperature from 32 to 26 in about 2 minutes. Really nice. And then that particular system used 3 litres a minute, you know. So a 44-gallon drum would last an hour, you know, for cooling flavor.
Well, this is colonised in time of the place.
Sorry?
This is colonised and time is an erratic.
Yep.
Time how long this would take actually before.
No, less than 10 minutes. I mean, the other day Kim and I ran it, and within a minute, probably been running a minute now, maybe 2. And there was wind. When there's wind, it's different. So there wouldn't be a big wet patch there. This whole area would be wet, including up here. You know, the wind's coming from here. So that's the thing with the mist, is that it blows around to where it needs to go. So yeah, at the moment, it's a still day. No fire is coming when it's still like this. And the other thing is, you know, that this mist doesn't do as much damage. It covers things in a mist rather than big droplets. So it covers things quickly. But like I said, I do use micro sprinklers and wobble tees and bigger sprinklers. All depends on the situation. But in this situation, this was enough to do the house and deck. Yeah, so that gives you a bit of an idea.